Hey guys, it's Wert. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm doing something probably a bit unexpected. I'm going to be doing an Overwatch video. Yeah, so during this whole quarantine and pandemic, I decided to pick up Overwatch again, and I've been having a pretty good time with it. I'm not going to say it's the greatest game in the world, and it's perfectly balanced, and there's no flaws. No, of course there are. But I decided to do a video on the topic because I have been like overall enjoying my time with the game, so I've decided to rank all 32 heroes from worst to best in my personal opinion. Now, obviously this is pretty controversial. The worst hero being the weakest, the best hero being the strongest is not how this list is going to work at all. That stuff is completely subjective and super hard to actually kind of rank. So this is going to be my least favorite to my most favorite based on 4 different categories. Number 1, how fun the character is to play. Do I enjoy playing them? Do I enjoy, how they flow in the game? Number 2, the character's role in the game. Do I think they have an active role in the game, in the gameplay, and they bring something to the table in their matches? Number 3, purely the aesthetics of the character. Do I think the character is designed well? Do I think he looks cool? Number 4, the character's concept. I think it's a cool concept for the character and their whole backstory and lore, and do I like the idea behind the character? So yeah, with that stuff out of the way, I do also want to mention that I'm a console player, so I know the landscape on console and PC is very different. And yeah, so I play on PlayStation, and also I'm not the most competitive or advanced player out there. I know some people are crazy into the meta and everything like that. You know, Overwatch, the meta's constantly changing. I can hardly keep up all the time. And I'm obviously not the best player out there. This is my gameplay, by the way, on quick play. Feel free to roast me, but it's just quick play. I was just having fun with every character. So, all right, all that stuff out of the way. Let's actually get started on the ranking to give you guys a better idea what this video is all about. Okay, starting off at the very bottom of the list is SYMMETRA. Now look, I don't hate SYMMETRA. I really do not hate SYMMETRA. I don't hate anyone in this game. I just think her whole kit is a little weird. Now, she's gone through a lot of reworks, and honestly, I think I like this version of SYMMETRA the best that, has been in Overwatch. I think she makes the most sense with her kit and, set of tools, but I still don't find her very fun to play as in general. I think her turrets work well in their current version. It used to be like 6 turrets and stuff like that. I actually like the current amount and how they deal damage and how you can break them. I think that actually works really well. There's also, the teleporter can be a really great tool, and her ultimate is really creative, and I think it's a really cool ultimate ability, but the other thing is she's just kind of forgettable. Her design is pretty bland in my opinion, and I bet almost half the people have watching this video have no clue what her backstory is. It just doesn't feel very developed or fleshed out at all. I might be missing something, but I really don't know much about her. I looked it up, and she's like an architect who uses light to build. I mean, that kind of comes through with her ultimate, but besides that, her whole concept just doesn't really fit her and doesn't really come through in her gameplay and her design and stuff like that. So a lot of those things adding up just don't make her a very appealing character to me personally. Next up, we have PHARAH. Now, PHARAH is also really low for a very similar reason to SYMMETRA. Again, don't hate her. I just sort of think she's somewhat forgettable, especially right now in the current way Overwatch is played. I do think she adds a cool layer to the game and the gameplay because, adds a level of verticality to the game that, is kind of, I like that kind of aspect of the game. I just personally don't find her all too fun. You think that someone shooting missiles from the sky would be a really cool character, but actually playing them is a really kind of boring gameplay loop, and I really don't enjoy it all too much. It gets boring pretty fast. And also her whole lore and concept, she's just kind of someone that works in security. I mean, that's noble and cool, but it's just sort of bland and forgettable. I do like, she's the daughter of Ana, and I like that aspect of her a lot more than just the character herself. So, but honestly, her design is pretty sick, so I gotta give her something there. Alright, number 30, we have Reaper. Now, I know Reaper is a classic character, he's a fan favorite, so I do see that, but I also don't like his gameplay at all, in my personal opinion. He just sort of shoots people and then gets out of the situation with his ability, and, his old Grim Reaper and death aesthetic is just a little bit too on the nose for me. It's just not really my thing, not my kind of style, just a whole death, die, 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 and he looks like the Grim Reaper. I'm just not all about that personally. It's a little bit on the nose, but also, his backstory is cool enough. He used to be best friends with the leader of Overwatch and stuff like that. It's a really cool kind of backstory stuff there. Not the most creative, but I still think it's pretty entertaining and does its job pretty well. Next up, we have Brigitte. I'm not entirely sure how to say her name. I hear it differently all the time, but Brigitte, most people would probably put her in dead last. I know she's super hated by the community, and I do get that to a certain extent. Her gameplay is kind of lame. She just comes in, just starts swinging, and that's about it. Many would say it's fundamentally broken, and yeah, I think it is a decently flawed kit, but I still think the idea behind her character has some merit to it. it. You know, I think it could work with a couple more evolutions and changes. I think her character could actually be pretty interesting. I also like her design a whole lot. You know, I think it kind of, it's a cool character for the metaverse of Overwatch. You know, the younger generation of heroes coming in. She's an apprentice to REINHARDT. She's the daughter of Torb. I like that whole kind of next evolution of this world kind of coming in. I think that stuff's pretty cool, and it represents the characters kind of evolving. Gonna be probably a big role in Overwatch 2 and stuff like that. Next, we have a Junkrat. Now, like Reaper, Junkrat is a pretty classic character that I'm sure has a lot of fans, so again, I don't hate these lower characters by any means. I'm just not the biggest fans of them. Now, really, my biggest problem with Junkrat is his lame-ish gameplay. I mean, he sort of just spams grenades and kills people really easily and deals a ton of damage. Now, I've been killed by Junkrats probably more than any other character, and you could be saying, get good, you know, learn how to avoid it, but when the grenade balls just roll out of nowhere, hit you in the back, just been bouncing, and you watch the kill feed, and the Junkrat's just shooting in a random direction in the sky, you're kind of like, oh my god, come on. That really is the most upsetting thing about his character. I do think he's somewhat fun to play. You know, he's obviously just spamming, shooting things. You feel kind of like a maniac. So I think his character personality comes through obviously really well in his gameplay. And I also like the role as like a trap setter. I think that is a pretty creative and cool role to have in Overwatch. You know, someone that's lays traps and stuff like that. So I like that aspect of his kit. But overall, you know, Junkrats are a little bit frustrating. Not just because, you know, they kill me all the time. Just this whole kind of shtick about him. It just seems like random kills a lot. But, you know, it does its thing. He's fine. He's there. He's kind of a maniac. I don't hate him by any means. Next up, we have MOIRA. Now, when I first started playing Overwatch again, I remember just hating MOIRA. I always felt her kit was just way too powerful and she did way too much chip damage, and I still sort of think that to an extent, but really, developing my time with the game, I've kind of learned to manage her a little bit. I wouldn't say she's broken, but she does have a really strong set of tools that can be dealt with that can be really hard to deal with. Now, she's a great healer for the team. You know, a lot of people look at her just pure DPS in the healer role. She's actually a very, very great healer for the team. She can do a lot of things, and her fade is a crazy good escape tool. It's very frustrating, but you know, honestly, I have to admit, MOIRA is a ton of fun to play. I'm not gonna lie. Playing as MOIRA feels really, really great and rewarding. So it kind of feels like you have a lot of duties to do. You know, this is the character that most of the time it's really easy. If you're just playing quick play or playing like a not too serious game, you can get a lot of golds playing as MOIRA very relatively easily compared to the rest of your team. Not saying you're carrying, but you can do a lot for your team as MOIRA. And her whole shtick of like evil scientist lady, it's not my favorite thing out there. I also really don't like her design. I think she looks a little weird. I'm not trying to be mean or by anything. I just think she looks kind of weird. I don't know why. I've always have. I don't like her little eye robotic thing. I just think that's a little weird. But I know I'm just saying looks weird, and that's my critique. But still, I don't know. That's just her whole concept of evil scientist lady is a little bland to me personally. Okay, next up we have Baptiste. Now, I like Baptiste. I think he's a fun character to play as. However, I really don't find his inclusion in the game all too needed. We already had, you know, supports that can also deal out damage and, you know, heal the team, and it just didn't really seem like a really necessary character. And also his whole design to me just screams, I'm a soldier guy in this kind of Overwatch setting, and nothing really too groundbreaking or creative about his design overall. The biggest thing about him that frustrates me, though, is his immortality field. Now, his immortality field is obviously a very good ability, arguably the best ability in the game, or not passive, but non-ultimate ability in the game. It's insanely good, and yeah, gameplay can really revolve around that. You know, just people being like, has he used his immortality field? No. Okay, if you're about to ult right now, just keep in mind he might just save the whole team and your entire ult is pointless, and stuff like that. It really is kind of a frustrating addition to the game. Really don't know how I feel about it at this point in time. I really don't think Baptiste was necessary in the game, but yeah, I like his backstory as well. You know, it's pretty interesting. You know, bad guy because he had to be bad, good guy because he's a good person. You know, it makes sense, and I think it's a cliche, but I like it nonetheless. Alright, in the number 25 spot, we have MCCREE. Now, I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this pretty low ranking of MCCREE, when MCCREE has a lot of fans about him that really like his character. They love his charm, they love his personality, they love his character design, and I'm with you right there on all those things. Maybe not the character design part, but I do like his personality, I like his charm to him. I just find his gameplay pretty kind of basic and boring in my opinion. I'd be saying, but you gotta get creative with the flashbangs, and you gotta have good aiming and stuff like that. I get that kind of aspect of his gameplay, but to compare to so many other heroes, it really feels like an underwhelming pick. Once someone picks MCCREE, I'm just like, okay, they're just gonna go in and shoot the bad guys. I mean, someone has to do it, but just doesn't really seem like very fun of a role or very necessary of a role compared to a lot of other roles out there. But I will say, you know, his character design is pretty cool. A cowboy guy, you know, it's fine. It's a cowboy guy. Similarly to Reaper, it's a little bit on the nose of kind of, this is my personality, this is my aesthetic, but it's good nonetheless. So overall, you know, I'm a fan of MCCREE as a character more so than his gameplay. Alright, next we have Sigma. Now, Sigma is a character I really struggle to wrap my mind about how I feel about him. He's very, very strong hero, and I really feel like he is changing the game in a lot of different ways with his abilities. You know, his absorb ability and his shield ability really just shut down a lot of damage going into the team, so he's obviously a very good tank. And yeah, I just don't find him too fun to play in my personal opinion. I really just kind of see him as a, you know, absorb, shut down the enemy team, and then throw little tiny blue orbs at the enemy, and you're like, okay, that's kind of it. And I just something I don't really get behind. I also don't really love his design behind him. You know, just kind of weird bald guy, kind of looks like a man baby. Is that being mean? I hope not. He just looks kind of gross, sickly to me. And then, you know, obviously his feet are out. I don't know why his feet are out in his character design. Always weirded me out. It's always weirded me out. I don't know. But overall, yeah, I think his backstory and lore are cool though. I'll give him that for sure. You know, the kind of going mad with gravity and the black holes and universe and stuff like that. Really cool stuff there. So I think that stuff is really interesting to explore, and I'm glad we have a character that actually explores that, at least in the Overwatch universe. Next is Mercy. Now, I know everyone loves Mercy. She's a super huge fan favorite, and I really do. I love her design. I think it's a really iconic design. It's a really iconic character to Overwatch. I agree with all those things, except I gotta say, I do not enjoy playing Mercy. You will not be seeing me playing Mercy on your team, especially in competitive at any point in time. I just don't find it to be fun at all. I just really am not about it. I know it is. You either find it fun or you don't, and I just can't see how people would find it fun. Obviously, people do. People play her. She's not like never picked or anything like that. And obviously, she has a very important role in the game. You know, you look at Mercy and you say, this is the healer of Overwatch. Obviously, there's a ton of heroes at this point, but Mercy is the iconic kind of support healing character. Same thing. Same way Reinhardt is like the iconic tank of the game and stuff like that. So yeah, Mercy is kind of the iconic one in that same fashion. And she obviously fits her role very well. You love a Mercy. You love it when a Mercy revives you. You love having a Mercy on your team. And also her concept behind her, though, I gotta say, her lore is kind of just, I'm a doctor girl, doctor woman. It's kind of bland to me, but you know, overall, the character itself is cool and the design is awesome. You know, it's an iconic design as well. Next up, we have ROADHOG. Now, ROADHOG has always been a really interesting role to me, as he kind of just exists and lives with an insane amount of health and obviously a really great health regenerative ability. His role as a tank is just, he just survives and eats hits for the entire team. It's really kind of weird. It's not really game-breaking, though, because, you know, his damage output isn't crazy. His hook is obviously a very good ability. And as far as his design and whatnot goes, I think it's a unique and iconic look, but it's always kind of weirded me out how, you know, a lot of the designs in Overwatch make sense in universe, as kind of like, you know, futuristic kind of cyborg people and stuff like that. And then you have ROADHOG, who just has an insanely fat stomach, which is just completely unrealistic in any kind of universe. I don't know, that one always kind of weirds me out, but I don't know. And yeah, I think he's fun. He's not a role I actively seek out like ever, but I think he is a fun character, and he's pretty fine in my opinion. Next we have Soldier, and Soldier is another very middle of the road character, as his kit is pretty much just shooty soldier guy. I know it seems kind of a slander, but you know, he really does help get the fundamentals of the game down. You know, he has the healing thing to kind of show the team aspect of the game, and also just kind of aiming and shooting and how it kind of works in Overwatch. You know, this is the character everyone kind of goes into Overwatch learning real quick and then kind of ditches most of the time, but a lot of times he's fun to go back to as kind of a character that's just, you know, all around pretty solid character. If you don't want to try too hard, do anything, not try too hard, but try to do anything too crazy with another character. He's always just a solid pick, just kind of like look around and shoot people. It just really doesn't feel like you have that much responsibilities in the game, and more so just be the DPS for your team. And yeah, his design is fine. I don't know though, I kind of wish they went further with the vigilante look, because you know, he's supposed to be like a vigilante kind of anti-hero kind of guy, and that doesn't really come across in his design all too much, but I still think it is a pretty cool design overall. Alright, next up we have Zarya. Now, Zarya is an interesting character, as I think she has a really creative role in the game as a tank. You know, just makes people invincible, eats the hits, and absorbs them into extra energy for herself. We all know how Zarya works. I've always thought for a while she's a little bit underrated character. You don't see her picked all the time. I mean, obviously she does get picked a good amount. I've been starting to pick her up more and more. She's one of those characters that I used to see fly under the radar a whole lot, and I think she is definitely rising up. In my personal opinion, I see her more, in my personal gameplay, I see her more and more. And yeah, also I think her backstory of like an Olympic athlete turned soldier is interesting. It's a little bit underwhelming compared to like some of the crazy history and past some of these other characters have, but I still think it is interesting nonetheless. And yeah, she's a pretty cool character all around. She's definitely growing on me. I used to be really underwhelmed by her, but she's definitely growing on me for sure. At number 19, we have ZENYATTA. Now, Zen's cool. I think he's fun all around. Not really someone I seek out to play like ever. I think the gameplay is a little bit bare bones. You know, obviously just shoots the orbs at the enemies, and you know, you assign the discord and the healing orb to your teammates and enemies, and that's pretty much all there is to his gameplay. It's just a little bit underwhelming of a kit, but you know, it is a lot of fun. Obviously, his ultimate is very, very good. I think it might be the best ultimate in the game, but you know, my opinion could be completely wrong on all this meta stuff. So yeah, and also I know his, like, it's a meme that his lore is like super unfleshed out and everything. I still like it though a lot because it's just kind of a cyborg Omnic is a monk guy, and I just think that's a really kind of a weird oxymoron that I really kind of like a lot. You know, I just think it's really interesting, really creative. Even if you don't have a lot of fleshed out lore about him, that whole kind of fundamental thing behind his character, I think is really creative and gives an interesting idea in the Overwatch like world. I think it's pretty cool to look at. Alright, next up is HANZO, who is, out of all the characters in the game, probably my worst hero. I really struggle with his bow, and I just commend people who put the time and effort into this hero, because he's not for me. He's not someone I particularly enjoy playing, and I don't know how people do it, but people that play him, I really commend you for it. I'm terrible with HANZO. But yeah, you know, I think it is a cool role in the game. He's a long-distance kind of sniper, kind of like Widow, but he definitely is more so mid-range kind of stuff, has his own kind of personality and playstyle to him, and not as stuck in the kind of hardcore sniper role like she is. And also, you know, we all know the HANZO and Genji lore. It's super sick and super cool. Not much to say there. I do actually prefer Genji's side of the story a little bit. I think he's more interesting of a character in the dynamic of the two of them, but I still think HANZO is a really cool character, pretty much all around, just not someone I particularly enjoy all myself. Next is Bastion. Now I know Bastion is pretty divisive and people will be mad. I put Bastion above HANZO and MCCREE and a lot of these other fan favorite characters, and I know some people absolutely hate him, and I can understand that. I really can. I just don't think he's that bad of a problem that I usually am not the person that sits there. I hate Bastion so much. Every time there's a Bastion, it's melting me. I do think it's really impressive, you know, how this one character would have such an impact on an entire match. You know, people play around Bastion all the time. If Bastion's really doing his thing, you really got to change up your team comp and really focus on how can you handle this Bastion as a team. I think that's a pretty cool kind of role to have. It means you have like a powerful role in the game, and yeah, no, his character design kind of is just robot, but you know, I really got to shout out to his character concept and kind of whole cinematic behind him, because this cinematic, I know people love the REINHARDT cinematic, they love the HANZO and Genji cinematic, but I think this one, Bastion cinematic, might be my favorite. You know, having a robot that has like war flashbacks and PTSD and just loves nature and doesn't really want this war and destruction, but what he was programmed to do, I don't know, it's just, it really gets to me, and I think it's really cool and really charming, and I absolutely love the cinematic about him. And you know, I really like his character. I like his growth as a character. I'm looking forward to, you know, in the story of Overwatch 2, I really hope he takes a big role in it, because I do think he's a really cool character in that regard. Next up we have Ashe. Now Ashe is another hero that I really didn't think was a needed addition when she came out, but it turns out she is a ton of fun. I don't know if she's still really needed. We already have, you know, HANZO for the kind of mid-range sniper, more flexible sniper, and MCCREE even for kind of fills her role a little bit, but I still think Ashe is a ton of fun and whatnot. I also don't really know if we needed another bandit character, kind of like MCCREE. I think there's other avenues in the Overwatch world and lore and stuff like that I would rather have explored than this one, but she does bring her own unique things to the table. You know, Bob is a really cool addition to the game. Some people hate Bob, they think he's broken. He's obviously very powerful, but I do think Bob is a really cool kind of ultimate in the game and kind of adds another character on top of Ashe. I just think it's a really cool kind of situation, the Ashe and Bob duo. I think it's really creative, and I'm really all about it. I really do like the characters grown on me a whole lot. Okay, next we have Torb. Now Torb is a classic. He has such a cool personality, and he really is a standout from the entire cast with his like charm and personality and everything like that. And you know, his role in the game, placing the turrets, kind of building the kind of turrets and stuff like that, I think is really cool. I do kind of wish they take the idea even further with him, you know, building different types of contraptions, maybe placing more than one turret. I know I don't want him to turn it into just SYMMETRA, but you know, just more things you can kind of evolve his character even more so, because it just seems kind of weird to place the turret and walk away and just you become like your own DPS. So I don't know, I think there is more they can do with his character, but he is still a very charming classic character. People love Torbjorn for a lot of different reasons. The only thing that also kind of bothers me about his design and whatnot is he's kind of like ROADHOG here, where you have a super rich universe that has like cyborg humans and stuff, then you just have a dwarf kind of guy. You know, I don't really know the situation there. Maybe he is, you know, a small person or whatever, but I don't know, it just always kind of stuck out to me. It seems like a random kind of choice for that instead of, I don't know, it's just always kind of weirding me out, but you know, maybe there's a better explanation than I'm missing. But overall, yeah, Torb is a fan favorite, and I definitely see why. Okay, next we have Mei. Mei is another hero that I know catches a lot of flack, and honestly, I used to be there with a lot of you guys. Getting frozen sucks, her going to her ice cube thing sucks, getting the walled off from the team sucks. She's a very frustrating character to play against, but honestly, after playing some time with her and kind of, you know, understanding the character more, I think her ice wall is one of my favorite things in the entirety of Overwatch. It has so many different creative and cool functions, you know, altering the map to your own will, placing people higher to a different position, cutting off the team, doing a whole bunch of different different creative things with the ice wall. Really wraps my mind around these different kind of creative and interesting characters you can really have just with someone like this. I really wish there were more characters like her that could kind of you know, alter the gameplay flow of the entire match by just like placing a wall or something. I think it's really creative. I think it's really cool. Also, we all know her backstory. Her cinematic is another really great one. Her backstory is tragic. I think it's really cool to have a scientist who made like her own gun out of like whipped cream and stuff like that, and canisters and things like that. I think it's really creative, and I love her backstory a whole lot. Even if it is tragic and dark, I think it is pretty interesting. Next up, we have Wrecking Ball, and Wrecking Ball is something. Honestly, when I started this video, I expected him to be a lot lower on the list, as playing against Wrecking Ball can really frustrate me, but I added up his points just like everyone else, and I saw where we ended up on the ranking, and honestly, it kind of makes sense. First off, I want to say that Wrecking Ball is a ton of fun to play. I am not good with Wrecking Ball. I will never play him competitive until I put down so much time and effort that I have not done so yet. Wrecking Ball is just a character that is just a blast to play. You know, swinging around, catching those loops, getting those bops, all kinds of different things you can do with him is a ton of fun. He's a really quirky, weird guy. And yeah, you know, obviously my least favorite part of him is definitely his whole stall kind of tactic, spinning around the point sort of thing, kind of boiling his gameplay down to just spinning in a certain spot, or, you know, quickly getting to a point to catch overtime. That aspect of the character is something I'm not too fond of. But, you know, everything else about him I think is just so much fun to play as, and just running through the enemy team is just a ton of fun. But I also will say that, you know, some of the fan base was split on having another animal kind of creature, taking away some of Winston's own original charm, but I do think there is charm to Winston because he's the only talking animal truly, and I also think there's a ton of charm to Wrecking Ball, or Hammond himself. I think he's really cool, and I think it's another creative addition to the Overwatch world that I'm all about. I think it is pretty neat. Alright, number 12, we have Echo, who is the newest hero in the game, and honestly, I like her a lot. She has some really creative abilities, and I think she's a ton of fun to play. Whenever I want to kind of just a random DPS character that can do a lot of different roles, I usually go with Echo, and I've been playing her quite a bit. And, you know, I do think part of that, she just kind of just boils down to another DPS character, nothing too creative or crazy about her, except for, obviously, her ultimate ability. Copying someone else is just a ton of fun. You can't deny that is a super creative and super fun ability to have, and I kind of wish that kind of ability on her was expanded. Maybe in Overwatch 2 or something, that ability gets expanded to be more of her main kit with copying other people's abilities, kind of like a Kirby in the Overwatch world, you know, Kirby in Smash and Kirby in his own games, something like that. So yeah, I think it is really cool. Also, her design is really sleek and stylish. It kind of seems like the next evolution of the Omnics and robots and everything like that in the Overwatch universe, kind of like Omnics 2.0 or something. I think it's really creative, and I think it's really cool, and I'm definitely a fan about her and her backstory and all kinds of stuff. Just, I definitely am an Echo fan all around. Okay, and right before the top 10, we have Widow. Now, Widow can be an absolute monster in this game. Now, not when I'm playing her, because I'm not good at Widow. I'm not the person that's going to go out there and play Widow one trick or anything like that, and far from it. And usually, my teammates are garbage with Widow as well, very frustrating. It's usually just always the enemy team. It's always the enemy team that has a disgusting Widowmaker. But, you know, obviously, walking out in the open, you get picked. Standing still too long, you're dead. And stuff like that, I think, is a really creative kind of hero. Maybe not creative hero, but just really adds to the gameplay. Kind of watch where you're stepping, watch where you're walking, kind of play safely. Kind of changes the whole dynamic of the game. If you have a good Widowmaker on the other team, it still is kind of fun because you kind of have to find these other routes, different areas, and just kind of be on your toes the whole time. I think it adds to a nice, fun level of gameplay. Also, her concept and backstory behind the character is crazy cool. You know, it is really tragic and really dark. Killing her own fiance makes her a great villain. You know, obviously she didn't want to. It's an evil villain that you don't like, but also someone you can sympathize with, so it's really well done in my opinion. I do think she's a standout from the rest of the cast, at least backstory-wise. So yeah, I am a Widowmaker fan, even though it is frustrating when you get these people picking Widow that obviously can't play her very well, but, you know, I'm gonna save my judgment until I actually see them in-game. Alright, kicking off the top 10, we have Orisa. Now, I know there are people out there that really don't like Orisa, and I can see that kind of opinion about her, but personally, I've always liked what she's brought to the game and how she's played within the game. Her abilities, I think, are super fun and pretty creative. You know, a lot of people view her as a counterpart of REINHART, and I do kind of get that to a degree. I've always been someone that picks Orisa instead of REINHART personally, and I really think there's a cool dynamic kind of rivalry between those two characters, even if it's only like in our players' minds. Maybe it's only in my mind, I don't know. But I've always kind of viewed that. I always thought it was pretty interesting. And, you know, I think her whole backstory is really creative and really cool. You know, with Effie kind of building a robot, like a child prodigy genius, is not the character, but instead the robot she built. I think that's really cool. Unfortunately, the design of Orisa kind of comes through that it's a kid built her. I get that's part of it, but really the design looks kind of dumb. She kind of looks like a weird horse centaur thing with a weird, like, horns. I don't know. I'm not about her design personally, but I do see the creativity there. Next up, we have the poster child for Overwatch itself, Tracer. Now, Tracer can be viewed as kind of underwhelming to be the poster child and have the lowest health bar in the game and not have a ton of damage output. Kind of looks kind of bad to be the main kind of quote-unquote main character of Overwatch, but I really think she still has a great skill set and kind of just zapping around. And I've been playing a ton of Tracer recently. I think she is a lot of fun to play. You know, going past enemy lines and coming right back, it's a huge ability and really benefits a lot. She definitely can't carry a team unless, you know, you're just an absolute monster that doesn't miss a shot. That's usually not me. She usually has to have a team kind of backing up and following behind her. But you know, her whole like lore with the time loop thing, that's a pilot thing, doesn't really come across to me all too solidly. You know, it is kind of a thing that I feel like it was created because of the abilities instead of what should her abilities be because this happened to her. You know, kind of just seems a little backward. I hope that explains it pretty well. I just don't know. I don't really love her whole backstory and lore. I don't think it's bad by any means, but there's always kind of a nail sticking out in her character because of that. But still, like her character and like her lore enough. Next is Ana, and I really like Ana. I think most of us can agree that she has some of the best abilities in the game. You know, her bio grenade and the sleep dart are insanely strong. And you know, I'm not great with Ana, I will admit it. I do think there's a huge skill gap to learning to play Ana really well, and I definitely wish I was there because I think her character is so sleek and cool, and I really like her role in the game. You know, be able to shut people down with a sleep isn't incredibly broken to like an insane degree, but it is still a very powerful ability, and you know, she do a lot of different things. So she's a really fun character for a really great role in the game, and you know, her whole mom kind of aesthetic and role I think is really cool and charming as well. Next up, we have Doomfist, and yes, I, along with everyone else in the entire history of Overwatch, has at least yelled one time, Doomfist is broken and stupid when you get killed by him, because sometimes you just get punched out of nowhere and you're gone, you're dead, and it's like, okay, this guy is broken, and then you play Doomfist yourself and you go, okay, maybe he's not as straightforward as I kind of thought. You know, sometimes he can get really dumb kills, but personally, I struggle with Doomfist really hard. I do think he has a fun factor to him. It's just something that I think takes a good amount of time investment. You can't just pick up Doomfist and do amazing with him. You'll end up going to enemy lines and just getting melted. And, you know, I really also, the big highlight for me about Doomfist is definitely his history and lore and character design, because, oh my gosh, I love the cinematic with him, and I love his design so much. I think the whole thing of, like, the Doomfist is an iconic name, it's passed down from generation to generation, is super cool, and I'm all here for it, so I really love that aspect of Doomfist. It's one of my favorites in the entire, like, Overwatch history and lore and everything. Next up, we have Winston. Now, Winston is iconic, and honestly, I could see Winston being considered, you know, the other poster child, the other main character of Overwatch behind Tracer, and I'm all here for that. You know, I think he's a great and really creative character that brings across the table really the creativity of the Overwatch team, and, you know, kind of how creative and weird this game can really be in a single character. You know, a talking giant gorilla monkey. You know, people call him Monkey all the time. And I think his gameplay is something that, even though I've been playing more and more of him, I do think is a little bit underwhelming. Just kind of charging in on people and holding left click, or not left click, I don't know, right click, right trigger on PlayStation, just kind of zapping people. It's a little bit underwhelming, but you know, there's still definitely a skill set to him. You know, jumping around at the right time, using his ultimate, I think is really difficult. I've struggled with his ultimate a whole lot, but I do think overall his character is a ton of fun. Maybe not a ton of fun, but you know, it is a really creative character, and I really like his character inclusion in Overwatch. Alright, kicking off the top 5, we have D.Va. Now, D.Va is also, I keep saying iconic, but D.Va is really iconic to Overwatch. People know D.Va well outside of the Overwatch scenes for, you know, various reasons, but she does have a really kind of authentic and cool energy to her, and I always thought her personality and whole gamer girl stick, you know, where she's like just kind of, I'm the gamer girl, was a little bit grating, a little bit on the nose, but really once I saw that cinematic about her, I got to see a little bit more of her personality and everything like that. I really do kind of like her character and sympathize with her character a whole lot more. There's a lot more there's a lot more to this character than immediately meets the eye, so I definitely do think D.Va is a really interesting character, and she has a great gameplay too. I absolutely love her gameplay. She's probably my go-to tank pick most of the time. Even though it is an off tank, I do like playing D.Va a whole lot, and she's a ton of fun to play. Next is Genji, and Genji is sick. Let's just be honest, let's say how it is. This character is really sick and dope. Now, his character design is really astonishingly cool. It's one of the best designed characters in this entire game. It just looks awesome. Next to Doomfist, it's just insanely good. And you know, his whole backstory and personality go with his character design super well, and it's just a really well-made character all around. Now, gameplay-wise, he is so satisfying to watch. I've watched more Genji highlights than I can care to count, but he is someone that I struggle with him personally. I'm really not good with Genji. Trying to get get better all the time, but you know, I still struggle with him. But you know, I do recognize the character and the things he brings to the table. I know people out there that main Genji because, you know, his movement is so clean and so smooth that they can't get used to any other character, and I can definitely see that. He is a very, very satisfying character to play. Alright, number 3, this might be a hot take, but I'm going to say SOMBRA. I think SOMBRA brings a lot to the table in Overwatch. We have heroes like Soldier and MCCREE, whose roles in the game are just shoot and kill the enemy. But then we have SOMBRA, who really takes a much more kind of meta role in the game. Her character goes around, hacks different health pods, kind of scouts out with the team, hacks enemies, shuts people down, and stuff like that. I think it is a really, really creative addition to the team. I really love, or to the game. I really love what she brings to the table. You know, sometimes people get really frustrated by SOMBRA, but I really don't think, you know, even she can get out of situations really well, I still don't consider her broken by any means. And, you know, she's a top pick in the Overwatch League for a reason. She brings a lot to the table and to the team. It is kind of difficult character to play. I'm definitely not great with SOMBRA. I'd love to be a SOMBRA main, or just at least play a lot of SOMBRA, but I'm really not. I really struggle with her a good amount, but I'm getting better. I do want to learn this character because I think she's super fascinating and interesting, and also she does require a lot of coordination with your own team, so that is something to keep an eye on. But yeah, also her backstory, lore, character design, all that stuff is really, really cool, and I definitely am a fan of it all. Okay, at the number 2 spot, we're going to have the one and only REINHART. Now, this might seem like a weird pick for people that know me, because I don't play REINHART like ever. He's not the character I go out and seek and play, and he's really not someone that I'm itching to learn at any point in time. I do think his gameplay is a good amount of fun. He can be a lot of fun when you just go absolutely crazy with him, and those are the moments that REINHART really shine. You get a crazy charge, you get a big earth shatter. Things like that are a ton of fun with this character, but, you know, the whole character and energy to him is just insane. He has a really powerful aura about him, and people that say, oh, I main REINHART, you kind of like, oh, shoot, this guy's serious. You know, maybe that's just me, I don't know, but he's definitely a really fun character to have on the team playing, a fun character to watch on your own team, and other people. You just see a REINHART charge, you know, sometimes you're like, Ryan, where are you going? But sometimes you're like, okay, actually that kind of worked. So it's a 50-50 character like that. But you know, we got to talk about his design as well. His design is insane, you know, just the armor and everything about his entire designing, it's just mind-blowingly cool and good. Like, similarly to Genji, Doomfist, or REINHART as well, I think is a really well-designed character. And, you know, his concept, backstory, and lore and all that stuff is also really great. His cinematic is really, really cool. And to top things off, at the number 1 pick, we have Lucio. So yes, Lucio is my favorite character in the game, but do know it's not by a long shot, it's not by a huge margin, you know. Lucio's total score is 18, the past couple have been 17, 16, 15. No character got a perfect 20, and no character absolutely bombed. Even SYMMETRA, I find charm in her, and she's the bottom of the list. So yeah, Lucio is my favorite character, and the biggest reason is his gameplay. I find him so much fun. I also feel like I'm feeling a good team role, you know, as long as I'm not just constantly going off by myself trying to get crazy boops. I'm staying back with the team, moving them, you know, with my speed boost, healing them when I need to, just kind of flipping back and forth. It is a good Lucio tactic to kind of do that. And you know, like I was saying, it's like, you know, the boops off the map, the wall riding, everything like that feels so good with this character. I know I mentioned earlier people love Genji's movement. For me, Lucio's movement is so smooth, and I absolutely love it. And it really feels like I'm playing a different game than anyone else. You know, running on walls, kind of diving around. I feel like every time I play a game on a map, I feel like I'm having a lot of fun at playing a different kind of, you know, scenario, different kind of layout. And I do think right now Lucio isn't the best character to pick for the meta, but I still think he is really good, and I think he will always be a pretty good pick. You know, just constantly healing the whole team, constantly moving the team to have an advantage over the other team. It's just a great scenario all around. I will say that his design and concept and everything aren't mind-blowingly crazy and creative. I do think it's really cool to have a musician be a healer and motivate people through speed and boost people back to the base. It's a very kind of basic kind of core thing, but I do like it a whole lot. And also his design's really cool. It comes off really well. You know, his whole, like, he's from Brazil, obviously, and, you know, whole music DJ thing all comes across really well. And his whole sports shtick as well. You know, he has the rollerblades on, kind of wall skating and stuff like that. So everything about Lucio, I think, comes across really well, and that is why he is my favorite character for a ton of different reasons. But most importantly, I think he's so much fun to play, and I think he has a pretty cool role in the game. So there you go. That is my entire list. I want to know what you guys think of this. If you guys want to rank all your heroes, let me know. If you just want to tell me a few of your favorites, I'd love to hear that too. And also, let me know what you disagree with about the list, because I'm sure Overwatch, well, I know Overwatch is a super opinionated game, and I know you guys have your own opinions about all these characters and heroes. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know Overwatch isn't my go-to kind of game, but hopefully I do more Overwatch videos because I had a ton of fun making this one. So thank you guys so much. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and bye-bye.